So, Evan Nolan, we got season 2, episode 24, but anyone who's watching us will probably wonder, has a weird argument sort of happened between two white people in North America about Argentinian soccer?
I didn't think we had a problem, and then you showed up wearing that jersey.
I wanted to play that game for those listening. It's like I have a bunch of random jerseys, so I put on a Boca Juniors jersey. I did not. Now, Evan spent a lot of time in South America for a regular listener, so I thought he'd be impressed that I own this.
My reaction instead was, what the fuck are you wearing? Shoot out of my chair and change shirts immediately to my River jersey. So I am a millonario, as they call the fans of River Plate, as opposed to you guys call us los gallinas, the chickens. We call you guys bostezos, the piles of shit. So it seems about fair.
Well, and I thought I thought it matched this hat too here. My Yomiuri Giants.
Oh, there we go. I have. God damn it! I'm a fan of the. Is there a Carp team? I think there's a team called the Carp.
Actually, okay. when I did get to go see a game in Tokyo, they were against the Carp. The Carp defeated them 7-5. Was it the Carp or was it the Whale? No, it was the Carp. Yeah, it was the Carp. Lloyd Moseby, former Toronto Blue Jay, hit a home run. I was pretty happy about that.
Wow. And was Tuffy Rhodes there as well? Tuffy Rhodes,
Tuffy
Japanese
was not
legend.
there.
Oh, okay.
Tuffy was.
No,
not
but
there.
so just for those of you who don't understand Argentine soccer, a quick little thing about Boca and River, which is a blood feud, and you can't pretend you can't like both. So I was at the last Super Clásico of the century in 1999 between Boca and River, the last time they were going to play each other in a regular season game. And so we're in River Stadium, which is pretty much a national team stadium for Argentina. They play almost all their home games there. It's 77,000 seat stadium. Mm-hmm. So it's divided into 4 parts with the 2 end zones and the 2 sides, right? So one of the end zones is all Boca fans because they're both from Buenos Aires. And the other 3 sides are all River fans. I also want to point out this is the last time, as far as I know, that Boca fans were allowed into River Stadium. So River won the game 2-0. And in the 80th minute on, the Boca end of the stadium, we counted 43 separate fires burning in their national team stadium. There was a police officer who tried to stop people. They pushed them from the upper deck to the lower deck. They have fencing around the sides. They were jumping over the fencing and the barbed wire to cut the hoses of the firefighters who were trying to put out the fires. It was absolute chaos. They let all the Boca fans out first, and then they let the River fans out at 15 minutes later, and you could just see them. So we were at the top of the stadium because we were poor students. So we're at the top of the stadium, and you could just see the River fans lined up at the gates, and they opened up the gates, and they just sprinted out. And I later was walking through the streets. I saw a pregnant lady bleeding from her head in the door of a kiosk who just happened to be wearing a Boca jersey, I think, when she was out and around. These guys hate each other. Every time there's a no more violence amongst fans thing in Argentina, which happens a lot, they always have a picture of a Boca fan and a River fan. So absolutely and utterly insane. And I have a deep loathing for everything Boca.
Wow.
So, yeah, I had a cool shirt on. I was going to talk about it, but no, I'm going to an Ario shirt for the night. Yeah, seriously though, I wish we had been I wish I hadn't realized it. And we'd been recording just because, the reaction. Oh man, I was so mad. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, and with my random jerseys that I've got left, I know that there's no way I'm going to generate any kind of reaction at all. There's 0 chance of that.
I don't know what other ones would I really. I mean, even the English football. I don't have anyone I really hate. I was agnostic on English football for so long, and then I just kind of fell in love with Leicester. So I root for Leicester, but I don't have any of the open hatred because I've never been to a game. I've never really had anything to do with it. Oh my God, do I hate Boca fans?
Wow.
So,
well, if it's any consolation, I just own this. I'm not a fan, which might be even more sacrilegious to people.
To be fair, I also have a Chacaritas Juniors jersey. I have a Quilmes jersey. I have a Vélez Sarsfield jersey. So I have multiple Argentine soccer team jerseys, but I do not have a Boca jersey. I have a River flag that hangs in here. I have all sorts of stuff. So I actually used to get El Gráfico, which is the Argentine soccer magazine, delivered to me in Boston from Argentina for about 6 or 7 years. So
I have to explain to our younger listeners what a magazine is.
Again, it's something you buy at a convention in West Virginia.
Nice. Very well done.
So
before we have our regular sub content, and for those, because we went on a tangent, of course, basically what Evan and I do, we talk about Hall of Fame related news, and because certain times there's lots of Hall of Fame related news, and sometimes there's not, much like the summer, this is the dead zone. So we came up with regular segments. Why we didn't do that when we first started doing this, because we weren't thinking.
Because we're rookies, and we're
rookies.
Figuring this
now
out
we're sophomores.
So I blame our producer.
Okay. Shit, I guess that's me.
No, we don't have one.
Yeah. So we have 3 regular segments. Evan talks about people who died.
Yep.
I have an elevator up. Who did something good over the past week that made their Hall of Fame chances better? Who really didn't? Got a lot of those this week. And Evan's got this great segment that we usually use as the hammer, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly of sports of the week. Before we get into that, I have a weird rant.
I was going to say, we have an unofficial 4th section, which is your weird rant of the week.
Well, yeah. All right. Okay, I'll start off with that. I was going to do something I'll talk about, I think, more next week, because I really want to digest this more. Or I might not. I might avoid this topic completely, which a lot of people have done. We have our first trans person in the Olympics who qualified, and I'm gonna sit on that. So if people are coming in to sort of hear what I've got to say on that, because I've gone off on some weird shit, and this is a pretty big one that I could go off on. I'm not going to just yet. I'm going to sit on this a little bit. I think I know where I want to go, but a lot of people aren't saying anything. A lot of people you would expect to say something. I will say this though. Martina Navratilova, who you can vote for on our website, nothalloffame.com/USA, for the first ever class for the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Somehow she's gotten the shafts in a lot of this stuff when it comes to social justice and how we progress in the West. I say it in the West because they're certainly living down here in Barbados. It's a different sort of mindset for this sort of thing. Martina Navratilova came out as bisexual in 1981. Probably knew what she was. She probably was more self-aware long before that. Came out as lesbian afterwards. And she said many times, actually she said something recently, that if there was Twitter, holy shit, she would have gone off on a lot of things.
Right.
Martina Navratilova is, if you think Serena Williams is the GOAT of women's tennis, I won't disagree with you. I think Martina's right up there with her. Just a quick Wikipedia search will tell you why I would say that. Martina got screwed out of a shit ton of endorsements all of her life for 2 reasons. One, because she's not conventionally pretty. But the biggest reason is she was a lesbian. Let's just call it what it was. That's why.
I also want to point out, at least temporarily, that she was a citizen of the Czech Republic, which is a communist country, which may have also had something to do with it.
That's fair. That's fair. I would agree with that. But pretty much every endorsement that would have went to a women's tennis player went to Chris Everett. To a lesser degree, Billie Jean King. Even though she also came out around the same time, but her big era was the 70s.
Right.
But she had a persona that, even though conventionally, if I have to talk about looks, and again, I know I rag on myself all the time. I'm a less attractive Ricky Schroeder, although I think I might have beat him now, if you've seen him lately.
I don't think it's close. I think you got that one, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But Martina lost out on this, that, the other thing. She said something really interesting that was controversial at the time, but it was right. Do you know that when Magic Johnson got AIDS, she said that, you know what, if it happened to me, people would have said she deserved it.
Yep.
She's probably right.
Yeah, agreed.
So, and then as we move on, and you're going to talk about something a little later, that I won't sort of spoil, but I think anyone might figure out what that is. As we sort of like moved on in LGBTQ rights, Martina Navratilova being gay is not even one of the more interesting things about her.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. But as we sort of talk about the whole trans issues, she's been on record saying, let's take a real good look at it. And that initially she said, it's not fair. And then she sort of softened that to like, we really need to take a deeper look at this in terms of level of competition. And I might go into that more next week, or I may avoid this completely. I don't know. But here's a woman who really is a trailblazer, but is now a TERF, which for those wondering what that means, I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but I think stands for trans exclusionary. I don't know what the R is. Radical?
Feminist.
Okay, well, yeah, the F is R radical. Okay, I don't know, but Martina Navratilova is now a bigot after all the shit she went through. Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't actually the rant I'm going to go on. I wasn't even planning.
A mini rant to lead.
A mini rant before a far more fun rant.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because that's probably why I'm not going to touch it next week. Because let's just have fun, man. We go off.
Yeah, that whole thing is a tough topic to go into. There's just so many moving parts. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. The Harlem Globetrotters say they want to be the next NBA team. And a lot of people on Twitter said, hey, that would be cool. And my first thought was, that would be cool. For a hot second, I thought that. All right. Now, in their press release on that, their open letter to Adam Silver, which is basically their way of trying to drum up some support for something that may not be there. Would it be cool? Sure. But let's look at the logistics first. Where are they going to play? Not Harlem. They don't play in Harlem. They never did. They don't have a home arena. Never did. Also in their press release, they did say a lot of things, talked about their great history, how important they are to not just basketball, but to African-American sports. No one can disagree on that. I'm pretty sure they predate the NBA.
I think they do.
Yeah. A lot of their players in the glory days played there because they weren't really welcomed on an NBA team. They beat the NBA champions, which was the Lakers, the Minneapolis Lakers at the time, I believe. I think it was once or twice. I can't remember how many times, but I know they beat them when they were the champions.
And just look what they do to the Washington Generals.
Well, they used to do the Washington Generals.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And then Krusty bet on them, and that was the end of that.
I was hoping you'd bring that up because I was going to, yeah.
You bet on the Washington. You bet against the Harlem Globetrotters. I thought
they were due. So then beyond all this stuff, and people saying, "Oh, how cool would that be?" Well, okay. Again, the other logistics of where are they going to play? The NBA is just not going to say, "Hey, yeah, come on in," without charging them an expansion fee.
Correct.
Which they can't afford.
Because they got to split what their money, it will bring some extra money into the league, not a ton. And then they have to split their 1/30th share of the money into a 31st of a share. Mm-hmm. So they have to make up for that somehow, which is why there's a big expansion fee.
Yeah. So they wouldn't play in Harlem because I'm sure the Knicks and the Nets would have a problem with that. And I don't know if they've got some kind of territorial rights. I think so.
I don't know. I mean, Nets, if I remember correctly, when they joined from the ABA, had to pay the Knicks money in order to join the league, like $2 million or something.
You can pretty much give up Irving.
Sorry?
I think they had to give up Julius Irving in some capacity. Oh no, they had to trade him to afford it.
To afford it, that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't research that part in greater depth because frankly, it doesn't matter. So like, who really benefits from this when it comes right down to it? The players of the Globetrotters? No.
Right.
Because not a single one of them is good enough to play in the NBA. How do I know this? Because they're not playing in the NBA. That's how I know.
That's a pretty good point.
Yeah. So who owns them? I looked this up. I might be off on the name. I'm not going to look it up because I really don't give a shit. Hirschfeld or Hirsch something Family Entertainment. They own a ton of amusement parks. Dollywood being a big one of them. I thought Dolly owned it, but I guess she's only a part owner in that. I'm pretty sure with the pandemic, I don't know how amusement parks here are going in the US, but here in Barbados, of course there aren't any, it isn't going too well. Didn't have a good 2020. They're not a publicly traded company, so I couldn't look at their stocks. But I'm thinking, you're trying to sort of like build off, like this would be sort of, well, they didn't say it, but they didn't have to say it. We're trying to do something great here for a black-based sport, although my understanding is it was actually owned by Abe Saperstein, but
right,
neither here nor there. I mean,
right, but that's I mean, he was one who owned it, but he may have been the owner, but it was certainly an African American haven at a time when it wasn't necessarily.
Right. So we're benefiting these guys, the Hirschfelds, whatever the hell they are. I looked what they look like. They don't look like the Globetrotters. I'll leave it at that. So what are we really talking about? A family that's trying to maybe sell off an asset that maybe someone else can try and make this pitch? The whole thing just really bothered me. Maybe, I don't know why it bothered me. It just did. Maybe it also bothered me that nobody else picked up on this. At least not that I could see. Why even, like, so many news outlets that were even bothered retweeting this? Why? It can't possibly happen. And if it should, not with these owners.
Yeah, and this does seem like nothing more than a money grab, and trying to leverage the historical nature of the team in order to maximize your profit.
It's a Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Hail Mary.
Because the NBA is talking expansion. And unless I'm very much mistaken, they will have a team in Seattle and a team in Las Vegas.
That's probably what will happen.
I mean, maybe Kansas City. But that's, I mean, the other major cities that don't have one at this point are like Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Columbus, like the Rust Belt. So it's pretty much those two cities that make in the Western Conference move Minnesota or Memphis, probably Minnesota to the east, and you're all set. So
yeah, it's like, this is one of those things that and maybe when I look at sports media, like, why even give this ink? All you have to do is think about this for 2 minutes and know that this cannot possibly happen. You question why they even put this out in the first place.
You've answered your question, because nobody thinks about anything for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, I guess I did. I did.
But I agree with you on this rant, because there's no way it's going to happen, and the only people who benefit are the people on the team, and that, like, it doesn't benefit the players. They're all going to be out of jobs.
All of them.
So
every single one of them. Probably a lot of people in that front office who are not equipped to know what to do in an NBA team. Yeah.
I will say, though, I am friends with Globey, the Harlem Globetrotters mascot. I know an inordinate number of mascots, honestly, and I think he'd be very excited, because he's always wanted to be an NBA mascot, and he would officially get the job, I guess. So
this would have been an idea for 1980.
Oh, great! Yeah,
that would have been a great idea right then. New York was, I think, recovering. The Nets were playing in New Jersey at that time, so you could have done something there. They were still a big name.
Just make them the Hartford Globetrotters. Everything would have been fine.
Sweet Georgia Brown. What would be the theme song?
I don't know if Connecticut has ever encouraged anyone to sing. As someone from the East Coast, we always call Connecticut the state without a soul. So I'm not exactly sure.
So their new, okay. So then their new mascot could be Don No Soul Simmons. I don't think anyone will get what the hell that is, but
I have no idea what that is.
Amazon Women on the Moon, played by David Allen Greer.
Okay.
Yes, Don No Soul Simmons. Nobody understands.
It's been a minute since I've seen Amazon Women on the Moon. I believe I was in 3rd grade, or maybe 4th. At my buddy Dave Van Aken's house. I think we watched that and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid on the same day.
Never saw that. It looked so stupid.
It wasn't good.
I'm sure it wasn't. So I guess from that sort of ends my rant. which
I have to say those were fairly well thought out, not at all unhinged. I'm impressed. Good job.
yeah, usually I'm getting pretty unhinged on these, aren't I?
Yeah, but no, that was more like a well-reasoned essay than an actual rant. So I liked it.
Which is better when I'm
that was more sports reporters than like First Take.
okay. So I don't know if I'm growing or regressing in what sort of like people want to hear from me. I don't know.
Sports reporters. So
there you go. I guess we'll just sort of like do what we've been doing all this time. I'll just continue going with elevator up, elevator down, and then you can.
Well, why don't I take out the? We have a very short.
Oh yeah, okay, let's do that.
Why don't I take that out to start? So this week, like I said, very very short death march. So I'll start in football. For Doc Allen passed away. Doc Allen, member of the Houston Oilers. Defense in the late 80s, early 90s. They were known as the I'm trying to remember what was the name of their backfield. I can't think of it right now.
You said Doomsday Defense, or am I confusing that?
No, not Doomsday. It was the give me a second. I think of it. House of Pain. So one of the members of the House of Pain defense, Patrick Allen, passed away at the age of 59. His body was found, but there was no evidence as to exactly what happened. There's an autopsy coming, but he passed away at the age of 59. We lost a stunt performer, a member of the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest dirt to dirt motorcycle ramp jump. He was practicing for it. Alex Harville passed away at the age of 28 while attempting his jump. He was trying to set the all-time record, which is the previous record was 351 feet. And he was practicing his jump and crashed and didn't make it and died of massive trauma. Let's just put it that way. So, not surprising for folks like that, but we don't have that many Evil Knievel type daredevils left anymore. So
no, I mean, they're all probably into motors. There's so many regular things they can go into.
Yeah.
Just like skating, daredevil, other things, or Jackass.
Yeah, Jackass, I suppose. From the world of acting, we lost a couple of minor characters, some stuff. I don't know. Were you a big Doctor Who person?
No. Other than the theme song, I just thought it was like one of the best theme songs ever done. And then once the show started, I thought the production was terrible, and I never watched any episode.
Fair enough. Well, one of the companions passed away, Dodo, who is the third companion, or the companion from the third season of Doctor Who. So if you ever watched old ones, Jackie Lane passed away at the age of 86 earlier this week. And of course, from Frank Bonner from WKRP in Cincinnati, best known as Herb Tarlick.
Oh man.
Passed away at the age of 79.
I love WKRP.
WKRP is highly, highly underrated. I mean, all anyone talks about now is the turkey Thanksgiving episode.
There's so many other great episodes.
There's so many other great episodes. That one, another one that's completely underrated these days, which was hilarious, is Barney Miller. Do you ever see Barney Miller?
I didn't. I mean, I'm certainly aware of it. That wasn't watched in the Buchner household, and for whatever reason, when I was growing up in the Toronto area, I don't remember the local channels running that a lot in syndication. Whereas KRP was
right.
Like that was like I'd get home from school, I think for at least a good 2 years of my life, maybe longer. There was the KRP rerun. I think they showed it 4 or 5. I always remember this with that weird intro where they were making no sense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but,
on purpose.
Yeah, Barney Miller. Just by the way, not that that's what we're talking about, but Barney Miller was like pretty much the show that set up Night Court in a way. Like they're very much the same sort of sense of humor, although without John LaRoquette's sexual deviancy to drag it along. But Barney Miller is another great one. WKRP in Cincinnati, Soap, Benson. There are a whole bunch from that era that were pretty good. Yeah. So, and then there were a whole bunch that were very, very terrible. So, but that one's pretty good. But anyway, rest in peace, Herb Tarlick. Passed away at the age of 79. And then the only other sport we lost 3 people from the NHL this week.
Three.
Starting with Howie Glover, who was played for the Blackhawks, Red Wings, Rangers, and Canadians from 58 to 69. Member of the Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. But he played 144 games and only had 46 points. He was one of the top goal scorers, though, in the history of the AHL, and still holds a record for the Cleveland Barons all-time single-season scoring. But he passed away at the age of 86. We lost Rene Robert, hockey winger for the Maple Leafs, Penguins, Sabres, and Colorado Rockies, who played from 70 to 82. Yeah. He was 72 when he passed away. He was, I guess, most importantly, after he retired. I mean, he played 744 games at 702 points. Not a Hall of Fame. I'm sorry.
Part of the Sabres best line of the 70s.
Right.
The French Connection was him, Hall of Famer Gilbert Perreault, and Rick Martin.
Rick Martin. Yeah.
Yep.
So member of the French Connection, but he also, after he retired, he was the president of the NHL Alumni Association for a long period of time.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But his number 14 has been retired by the Sabres. He was elected to the Sabres Hall of Fame with Perreault and Martin in 1989. His number was retired in 95, along with Rick Martin's number. Perreault's number was retired in 1990. But yeah, he passed away at the age of 79.
Yeah, that was a really, really huge.
72.
For that team. A lot of people don't remember. Sabres made it to the Stanley Cup Finals with those three pretty much carrying the way.
Yep, it's 75.
Yeah, I think the Flyers thumped the crap out of them, but still.
That was the last Flyers championship too. Amazingly. Yeah. He was a 2-time All-Star as well. So, and the most importantly to my watching hockey growing up, I actually missed this originally when he passed. Tom Curvers passed away. So he was a member of the 86, the second to last Canadians team to win the Stanley Cup in 1986. Who knows? They may win the Stanley Cup this year. They're still going. So, but he played for the Canadians, Sabres, Devils, Leafs, Canucks, Islanders, and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. Drafted 145th overall by the Canadians. Defender. He appeared in 659 games at 421 points and was in 57 playoff games. Then later became the radio commentator for the Coyotes. So, do you have any Tom Curvers memories?
No. I remember he was a pretty high draft pick. I think that was one of the few times I remember watching the drafts with my uncles.
Well, he was pick 145, so you guys would have been a few.
Then I'm confusing him with someone else. Then. So, okay, my Tom Curvers memory is wrong. So I have no good Tom Curvers memories. So
my Tom Curvers memories is my favorite game as a high schooler was NHL 95. And whenever I needed a easily available third line defenseman, whatever team I played, you could always trade for Tom Curvers for the one season. So Tom Curvers was almost always on my team, whatever he did. So anyway, he was only 59. He passed away, or 58 actually. He passed away from non-small cell lung cancer. So
things just happen too quick.
And that's everybody I got.
All right. So 2 weeks in a row or nothing. I don't want to demean the people who we've lost, but there is sometimes where, my God, it's heartbreaking. Yeah,
they're tough weeks. I was worried about there are a couple weeks at the beginning of the year. I was worried about everybody who ever wore the number 44. So we lost Aaron and Floyd Little and a few other people all at once. So Danny Ainge had to retire. So 44, the curse of the 44 is still going.
Well, so I guess we go to elevator up, elevator down. I didn't actually have an elevator up. I mean, I could have picked from a few baseball players that I'm just going to hold off on. I could have done something from the playoffs in the NBA and NHL, but nothing stuck out that much. I will add a little bit of one for my elevator downs, but something just happened a few hours ago, and I don't. I'll have to apologize ahead of time. Evan and I record this on Wednesday night, so this was sort of been making the rounds on Twitter. My elevator up is Britney Spears.
Wow.
Because she's going through her, I guess, her conservatorship, and I apologize to people listening. I'm not a Britney expert at all, but here's my rudimentary understanding of it. Since she was in her mid-20s, so I believe in the last 13, 14 years, she is not allowed to make any decisions for herself. And so she made literally any decision, to the point of when she can see her kids, how much medication she can have. It is the strangest thing I've ever been aware of. There's a documentary on Hulu, I think from New York Times, about that, sort of explains that a little bit more, better than anything I could possibly say. But long story short, we're looking at a pop princess now whose story and sympathy towards her has never really been higher. There's a lot of people who are now sort of like looking at her era and just reflecting on a lot of the joy that her music gave. Is it deep? No. Does a lot of it stand in its own way? Sure it does. Mm-hmm. If I go, hit me baby one more time, you're not going to look at me, Evan, and say like, no, I'm like physically hit you. You're going to go bum, 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 bum. You know it. We all know a lot of this woman's tunes. Whitney Houston, when she got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it brought in a whole other category to me and you brought this up before, of the diva.
Yeah, right. And then shortly thereafter, Tina Turner was in, who's one of the Queen divas. And when Richie Lautner keeps asking us for who all our predictions are for next year and everything, my next one I went to is Diana Ross. Could it be Cher? Sure. But Diana Ross is the next diva.
Sure. Now Britney's sort of that different type of diva. Now, I'm not ever going to say like, when you hear Britney sing, you really hear a lot of Whitney in that. Of course you don't.
Oh, baby, baby.
Right. But struggle. We love, I think as Americans, Canadians, just people in the West who are really inundated with pop culture, we love building someone up and we love tearing them down. But we also love to build them back up again.
Yeah, we love the redemption story in the back end too.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've got one hell of one going on. There is going to be a lot of things coming out of this. I don't know what. I mean, there's a lot that came out now that I could read through. I'm not going to. There's a bunch of notes from a 24-minute speech that she gave during her hearing today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, myself included, rooting for her. Does this translate into a voting body? Does this translate into people who want to make these decisions as to, it doesn't hurt, it sure as hell helps?
I would agree with that. And it's going to be interesting because I think this last Rock Hall class and the comments that came out afterwards, particularly from the president of the Rock Hall, talking about how they are now defining rock as the music of the young people. What drives young people in America is really what it is. Now, I would argue that rock is the type of music and roll is the soul of the music, right? It's the letter of the law and the meaning of the law, right? But if that's what they're using as a definition, and they're going to get more and more away from just typical rock bands, which they seem to be doing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no, Iron Maiden hasn't gotten in. It took forever for Deep Purple to get in. Like all of these rock bands, and I'm not talking the big hair rock bands, right? Mm-hmm. Although I'm still shocked that Motley Crue hasn't even been nominated at this point. But like all of those the more folks like Whitney Houston, and again, Tina Turner's a whole separate category. She should have been in on her own anyway. Mm-hmm. But if we end up getting a Diana Ross, which leads to Cher, which leads to Carly Simon, which leads to, I'm just like trying to work my way through the list, right? And getting up to there. By the time she gets there, she very well may be top of mind. Because I mean, Mariah Carey, right? There's another one. What are they going to do with Mariah Carey? What happens with if Christina Aguilera comes out? Because she can actually sing very well.
But Britney had the better career. In terms of chart success, she did.
Chart success, yes. In terms of the way people think about her still.
Right. But Christina Aguilera hasn't been really talked about other than showing up on The Voice for the last 10 years. Britney has been front in mind for a lot of people. Now, let's say she gets emancipated, which is so weird that we've got a 39, 40, I don't know how old she is.
She's got to be close to my age.
Yeah. So, and she's not Rock Hall eligible for a few years, but it's not that far away.
No, it's not. It's 98, I think, is when her first album came out, right? So that would make her 2023.
Yeah, and if not that, it can't be
2024.
So I could see happening. She gets her emancipation. Now
she's 39. She'll be 40 this year.
Okay.
Just by the way.
And again, it's like she gets her emancipation from her dad at 39, and after making him, it's the whole thing's disgusting. Wouldn't maybe some of because Britney isn't a songwriter, but I'm sure she can take her experience with some great songwriters. If everyone wants to see her succeed, is it not possible that someone can help her? Because she can't do it on her own. Let's be blunt on that. Create some music that really sets all this out. Like when we look at Ricky Nelson, when he got in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, did he get in for some of the music he did when he was younger, or was it Garden Party? You know, a song about when he got booed from the gardens from the Madison Square Garden because he didn't want to sort of like just do a bunch of oldie hits. Like that is when the critics look back at that, they point at that. Could Britney have like a Garden Party type moment? And I think there's going to be a lot of people to help her do that. Should she want to? I don't know what she wants to do.
Interesting.
And
the first person that came to mind when you actually just brought that up is not someone who's in any sort of Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. But do you remember Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback? What he did first?
Yeah. Oh, what he did first?
Yeah. Do you remember what he did first to get back?
God, he had so many different comebacks. So
the one that really led to it sticking.
Before Iron Man?
Pre Iron Man, yeah. Pre Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, because I was thinking Tropic Thunder was after. Chaplin was when he was at his worst, but he still had
I'll just tell you because you're thinking the wrong way. Oh. It was a music video for Elton John. Oh, so there's a music video for Elton John called "I Want Love," the song that Elton John recorded.
I didn't even know that.
It's just Robert Downey Jr. walking around a big empty mansion, lip syncing to the words "I want love," but it's impossible. Man like me, so irresponsible. Man like me is bent in places. Other men feel liberated. Like just going through this whole thing, it was almost like an open confession of everything he did wrong. And he did that. He had been nowhere. Elton John threw him the lifeline. And then all of a sudden after that, it was almost like people in Hollywood are like, oh yeah, remember Robert Downey Jr.? We should give him another shot. But it's like someone threw him a lifeline to get him going into everything else. It's just the same sort of thing can happen. And it's not like right now, I could tell you right now on WXRT out here in Chicago, there are brand new songs being played from the Counting Crows and the Wallflowers. They both released new albums, and their new singles are in heavy rotation on XRT out here. Now, XRT is a different sort of radio station, but I mean, if they're getting airtime, and I'll be honest, so both of the songs are fine. The Counting Crow song sounds very much like a country song, but if they can get airtime, there's no reason Britney, who is significantly more popular than either of those groups, can't get airtime.
And people want her to succeed. I mean, and I'll put myself in that category. I never gave a shit about her. I mean, I thought some of her tunes were catchy, but I mean, when she had her meltdown, shaved her head, just was like, man, I mean, was it entertaining to go check that out on gossip sites? Yeah, feel a little dirty about it. Felt dirty then, but
yeah.
I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm not.
I'll say it now. I'll say it again. Her song "Toxic" is one of my absolute favorite songs of the late '90s, early 2000s. I just freaking love that song. Anytime it comes on, I just love the song "Toxic."
So here's a woman who we all want to see come back, have this amazing comeback. And it's weird to say have a comeback when she was still making millions just on a residency in Vegas, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
who was she making the millions for?
Not herself, but
yeah.
That's my elevator up. The elevator down far more pedestrian.
That was it. Sorry, I just want to say that's a very interesting elevator up. I like it. I was wondering if you're going to go like Trae Young or Chris Paul or someone.
Eventually, I'm saving that because I want to see what's sort of going to happen. Trae Young would have been an easy one, especially.
I'm going to call it. Atlanta won tonight. Atlanta is going.
Okay, I didn't. Yeah.
Sorry if I ruined that.
No, I didn't record it. So.
Atlanta is going. You ready for this? Atlanta is going to sweep the Bucks. They are going to sweep them.
At this point, the series I want to watch. Actually, I'll say this before I do my elevator down. I want to see, and I think this would be the best thing for the NBA. Bucks versus Suns.
Okay.
Because you've got two stars in Devin Booker and Trae Young.
Yeah.
Hmm?
And who?
No, Devin Booker from Phoenix, and then Trae Young for Atlanta. Did I say Bucks?
You said Milwaukee.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Hawks. I apologize.
Okay.
No, I mean, Giannis is as big a star as he's gonna get. They should market the hell up. Maybe they don't because he's Greek.
He needs a championship though on his resume more than
there is, but
he's probably already a Hall of Famer. But he is in order to go using Bill Simmons, levels of the Hall of Fame. If he gets a championship, he can move up a whole level.
Right, but I'm talking around about marketing.
I understand.
Yeah, so they've marketed Giannis isn't going to be any bigger, even if he wins a title. Is he going to be a bigger star than he is now?
Probably not.
So you've got two young guys in Booker and Trae, both under 25, both exciting players to watch. Mm-hmm. And some of your older players.
Both completely unafraid of anything.
Right. These are your two guys that you market the hell out of. And I hope they do. And I think they will. So they need this. They need superstars under 25.
They do.
And there's a lot of hope for Zion being that guy. He's not going to be that guy because he's going to get the snot beaten out of him. Right. He's going to break down early. I love Zion. I love watching him play.
I mean, looking around the league, you got Luka, you got Tatum.
Right.
I mean, there are a bunch of
Luka's got the same problem that Giannis has. Same with Jokic, although Jokic, I believe, is over 25. But it's still an American league.
Fair enough.
And as much as you and I see things we're fans anyway. We're going to be watching no matter who's playing. Mm-hmm. They need people who I'll watch because this so-and-so is playing. Mm-hmm. You need another person like that.
Sorry, before you get to your elevator down, can I just ask you one quick trivia question?
The answer is 4.
The answer is not 4. The answer is actually 43. But anyway, so the two teams with the longest droughts to get into the conference championship, conference finals in the NBA were the Atlanta Hawks and the Los Angeles Clippers. So the Clippers had never made it. The Hawks have been a long time. Mm-hmm. So the two of them are now in the conference finals. What team currently has the longest drought in the NBA for not having made the conference finals? And I'll tell you, it's 43 years.
Hence the answer is 43. So let's see, it's 2021, 81, carry the 4. So it's been 78. Portland. No, nope. Portland was in the finals.
Kevin Duckworth and Clyde Drexler and all those guys.
I think I got the right year.
You do have the right year. Who did Portland play?
All right.
No, wait. They didn't. 78 wasn't. Was that Portland's championship? I can't remember. I just remember who lost it.
Portland and Seattle.
Seattle. I think that was Seattle's championship.
but I don't remember who either played. Let's see, it's a conference championship. Well, Knicks have been one.
Yep.
So it's not the Knicks. Not the Pacers. Is it the Pacers? No, can't be.
It's not the Pacers. No, Reggie Miller.
So
they lost to the Bulls in Jordan era.
It's not the. Well, no, because the Bucks won it in the early '70s. Well, what the Bucks?
It's not the Bucks.
Globetrotters? I don't know.
Sort of. Same colors. The Washington Wizards have not made the cut. And you want to know what's even more shocking than that?
Mm-hmm.
Since 1978, the Wizards have not won 50 games in a season. Going 50 and 32. Think of like the Gilbert Arenas teams, Antoine Jameson, like all those guys. They have never won 50 in my entire life. The Washington Wizards, knee bullets, have never won 50 games in a season, 50 out of 82.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's insane. Anyway, go to your elevator down. I've hijacked.
Oh, no, it's good. I'm upset at myself. I couldn't get that. Mine's pretty easy. I think a lot of people have been watching the I don't want to call it an implosion. They were just outplayed, partly. The Philadelphia 76ers. Mm-hmm. Joel Embiid, I could have easily said elevator up. He did everything he could. If he played 10 more games this regular season, he would have been the MVP. I really believe that. Jokic was the league MVP, he was my MVP, but mostly because Joel Embiid and to a lesser degree LeBron James both got hurt and didn't have that full season. So if I go by an MVP, I mean a regular season MVP. But I got three people on that Sixers. Ben Simmons, who is a 3-time All-Star now, 2-time first-team all defensive player. Mm-hmm. Had a good defensive series, but he was afraid to shoot. Ben Simmons.
He took 4 shots in the fourth quarter in that 7-game series total. 4 total in that 7-game series.
He punked himself. He's in his own head.
Very much so.
And playing in a city like Philadelphia is not going to help Ben Simmons.
See, I wonder about that because remember what happened to Markelle Fultz?
Does anyone? I don't think Markelle Fultz remembers what happened to Markelle Fultz.
But my point, though, is they're both it's 2 Philly players who came in very highly touted. Now, granted, Simmons has had a much better career than Fultz did.
Absolutely.
But just all of a sudden couldn't shoot anymore. I just don't know if there's something going on in the water there in Philly.
He got in his own head. Simmons is in his own head. When he was playing defense, he's still comfortable. Mm-hmm. But when it was offense, it's like, no, I don't want the ball. It's like we just talked about Herb Tarlick, right? One of my favorite WKRP episodes, I'm really going deep dive in this one, was the baseball episode. And it's Les Nessman who never got to play baseball, and he's playing baseball. And they put him in right field, and after he failed as a pitcher, failed at first, failed at third, and then he actually makes the saving catch to win the game over the dreaded WPIG. But right before that, the ball comes to him, and he's going, "Please, Lord, don't hit it to me," or something like that. Mm-hmm. Ben Simmons is now Les Nessman when it comes time to shoot. Like, no, I don't want it. He's in his own head. Something is there. Pile of people in Philadelphia want him gone, and that's not going to go away. And
he has played his last game for the Sixers, I'm pretty sure.
It's very well possible. And this could be the best thing for him, or at the same time, it's like, okay, you're going to have to make a tough situation if you're going to be a superstar in the NBA. What have you got? You're well under 25. There's a lot, and he's not going to be playing for the Australian team apparently. So he's not going to help his international cause with that. Ben Simmons took a major step back, as did 2 other Sixers, I'm going to say, and to a much lesser degree. Well, I'm not going to say one took a step back. He's going in anyway. Doc Rivers. Because once again, he had a talented team that didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And he did make some questionable decisions on having Danny Green play defense in any capacity against Trae Young and that. And it's like, we all saw what was going on. Like, What are you doing? But I can't even pronounce the guy's last name.
Don't feel bad. The Bucks just put Bobby Portis at center in an effort to try and stop Trae Young tonight, and that did not work.
Okay. But here we have Doc again. And also, it doesn't help either that the team he had, the Clippers, now made their first conference final. Doc's going to get in because he's going to compile win after win after win after win. He's going to be just fine when it comes to this. But does this not delay it a year or two? It certainly would put doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he has the one championship with the Celtics. They should have won in, 2009, they had a chance to win, but Garnett got hurt. 2010, they should have won that series, except for that ridiculous Artest shot. Meta World Peace shot, excuse me. But he's also had more 3-1 losses as a coach. I think in the history of the NBA, there's only 22 of them or something. And he's got 6.
And at some point, because there are questionable things I'm watching, what are you doing? So there's that. And this is really petty on my part. I don't think he was ever going to be considered as an executive anyway, although I love the way Adam Silver stuck up for him. Daryl Morey said something yesterday, or is it today, that I thought was really interesting. Morey's the GM of that team. You ever see God, I'm going way back for all these obscure references. You ever see the Tony Danza-led film, She's Out of Control? I know.
No. Fun. I have to ask this question, though. Did he play a character named Tony?
I don't remember.
Because Tony Danza can only play characters named Tony because he can't remember unless that's his name.
He doesn't answer. Did. I won't go into my Tony Danza impression. I'm sure I've already done this on the show. Yeah, I will. I'll do it again. Samantha, Angela, Mona. That's it. That's all I got. Anyway, he said something, and he said something today, Maury said something today that reminded me of something that Tony Danza's character said in that. And Tony Danza played, coincidentally enough, a program director or a general manager at a radio station.
Wow, that radio station was hurting for talent.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, if I think of what radio I want, I trust Tony Danza. Mm-hmm. And the film, I don't remember this. I don't know. This is the only line of the movie I remember. But Tony Danza's daughter was the one who was out of control. And he wasn't focusing on his job at the radio station. And then they kept going down in the ratings in LA. So they went from 6 to 10. I don't know what it was, but it was and then every time that the boss would say, hey, there's 40 other stations that would love to be number 41. Daryl Morey today said, well, there's 25 or 26 other teams that would love to be where we are. And I don't know why it just made me think of Tony Danza.
It reminded me of in the late 90s when the Red Sox got passed by the Yankees and they ended up missing. I think I remember they missed the playoffs and made the wild card that year. And Dan Duquette came out and said, yeah, but we spent more days in first place.
Yeah,
Great.
It's a lot like that. And I don't know, it's like trying to find a win where there isn't one. It's the NBA. You can turn shit around so fast.
Right.
No, there's not 25 or 26 other teams in the NBA that would like to be you. There's not. There just isn't. Maybe the owners of the Harlem Globetrotters would love to be you. There's an answer. One team for sure. Before we finish that, think about, here's a random question. If Harlem, I should have asked this before. If Harlem sort of would become that, what is their ranking right now? If we were to do a world ranking of actual club teams, would the Globetrotters even be top 500?
In terms of talent of the players?
Yeah. If there was a best of tournament,
I'm sure they'd be top 500.
The European leagues have gotten a hell of a lot better.
I can't say I've watched a ton of it, but 500 is a big number.
It is a big number. And there's five, and there's so many other teams that would love to be in the top 500.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
I knew it.
I've been trying not to say it for so long.
And you say you don't watch Friends.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So that's your elevator up and down, huh?
That is my elevator up and my elevator down.
All right. So I guess it's time for me to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly this week. Anyway, all right. So I have one good I really want to go into, but I do think I should mention one thing quickly,
Mhm.
only because it's historic, even though it was met with largely a collective shrug, which is I think is actually pretty nice.
Mhm.
Carl Nassib came out, who's plays for he's a defensive lineman, I guess, defensive lineman / linebacker. Went to Penn State. You know, he was the Ted Hendricks Award winner, Lombardi Award winner, unanimous All-American, all that stuff at Penn State. He's had a solid NFL career, but he plays for the Raiders. He
Mhm.
came out as the first openly gay active player in NFL history. Now, of course, Michael Sam was gay at came out as gay at the University of Missouri and was drafted, but never actually made a roster.
Right.
So Nassib was the first to officially come out. I guarantee you he won't be the last.
No.
He came out in a very interesting way, or I think in a good way. He's just like, hey, I just want to let everyone know I'm gay. The only reason I'm doing this is so that other people could see that there are people out there like them if it causes anything. And they gave $100,000 to the Trevor Project, which helps youth who are coming out not commit suicide. It's basically a suicide helpline for youth like that. And he's just like, I'm not going to be taking more questions on this. It's really not that important. I just wanted it out there.
And to your point though, when you said it's like a collective shrug, so when that came out, I thought, okay, this is surely going to rock. I spend way too much on Twitter, even though I don't tweet very much, but I do sort of like follow trends and whatnot just to see what people are talking about. At least where my thing is configured, and I've got it set worldwide. I think I do anyway. It never made the top. It never made the top 4. I only saw it go like hit as high as number 5, which basically means it's like, that's what pretty much most people said.
Which is very different than would have been even 5 years ago.
But I think also not necessarily because of the players, but more because of us, the media, the people asking questions. Michael Sam choked because he couldn't handle it. He thought he could, and he got in, and talked about people getting in his own head. Michael Sam got in his own head.
Michael Sam had a lot of help, and I know that the Indianapolis Colts are my favorite whipping boy in terms of a lot of things. But Tony Dungy came out and basically said that he would never have drafted Michael Sam, regardless how good he is, because he would be a distraction to the team and he wouldn't want that around.
Which turned out to be true, though, to be fair.
Fine, but this is the same guy who defended Adrian Peterson.
That's also true.
So that was 2014, just by the way, when all that happened, right? So we're talking 7 years ago. So 7 years ago, it was such an issue. And again, we've had other players who've come out since they left the NFL. They were gay during their time in the NFL. Well, they're gay, and they were in the NFL, but didn't come out until afterwards because they didn't think the locker rooms were ready for it. And just 7 years ago, Tony Dungy went on, and a whole bunch of people agreed with him that just some guy's sexuality was a massive distraction to the team. And now, 7 years later, everyone's like, we care why?
Yeah, and likely most of his teammates knew already and didn't care.
Probably.
I read something, actually, when I was prepping for this classic sports review, a little blatant self-promotion of another show that I do. It's a classic sports review. We look at classic sports moments in sports games. That is going to be part of the next one.
I'm telling you, though, we need a show, Nate, called Blatant Self-Promotion. Just throwing that out there.
I should. But the last one I did, again, special guest. I had a special guest star. I had a former Miami Dolphin 7-time Pro Bowler, Richmond Webb, was on that.
Who's an awesome dude.
Absolutely. And we looked at the Oilers' fall against the Buffalo Bills and that wild card game. Yeah. And while I was doing all the research from that, I found an oral history of that, and might have been one of the Oilers. I think it was Moon who said, like, because he talked about stuff that happened afterwards that sort of led to who was that? Buddy Ryan.
Buddy Ryan.
Thank you. It sort of led to him sort of coming in and all the other drama that came afterwards. And they said like, and they were talking like we had a really cohesive team. I mean, we had 2 gay guys there, and we didn't care. We would have sort of sneak off. And then it sort of came up again. Warren Moon mentioned that in a Reddit. I don't know if you didn't read it, but it sort of got picked up where I guess Warren Moon said, "No, congrats for living. I guess you're true." I don't know. I don't remember what he said. And then I think it came back up again. But I remember like I just read it 2 weeks ago on something that would have been published. This is oral history a few years ago. Different players have different points on that. Now, Tim Hardaway, as we know, had a different opinion then.
And has changed.
And he has changed.
And has legitimately made concrete steps to show that he has changed.
Sure. And different locker rooms in different eras. So like certainly it's not a monolith. I think you and I talked about Glenn Burke, the former baseball player who wasn't out, but I mean, all his teammates in Los Angeles didn't kind of figured, but wasn't really a distraction. It was for Tommy Lasorda, but for the most part, it wasn't as big a deal. But when he got traded to Oakland, it was. And it metaphorically, it kind of killed his career for sure. Anyway, so we go here, and like you said, I mean, most people don't care. This is not. If I'm a Raiders fan, okay, does this affect my team? No. All right. So let's move on. Like, does anyone give a shit?
And the fact that the answer to that is no shows a seismic change over the past half decade. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even my good. I just wanted to mention it because it's something that happened this week, but it was just okay, great. Let's move on. Nobody cares. And maybe it's because, no offense to Carl Massey, but he's a little bit, maybe it's just because he's a little bit unknown. Like he's a good player, but it's not like, I mean, like Tom Brady came out, you know what I mean? It's not like.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That would go.
I mean, I was just picking the most famous person in the NFL I could think of, right? So it's not like that. So who knows? But anyway, so the thing I want to go into for my good this week, and it happened today, was, and I know I talk a lot about soccer, but I have to just say how fun the Euro was today, particularly the group of death. Now, Group E happened, and Spain beat Slovakia 5-0 on 2 own goals, including, I know we talked about an own goal, Haiti, Canada. Yep. The own goal in Spain, Slovakia today, where all the goalie had to do is tip it over the bar, and instead he like volleyball spiked it into his own goal. That wasn't good. Poland, Sweden was a ridiculous game, with Sweden winning at the very end. But the group of death, as we called it, going in, I joked, would Hungary score any goals? And turns out they did.
5 minutes away from advancing.
They're 5 minutes away from advancing. That was the thing about today and why it was so great. So it came in. France had 4 points. Portugal had 3. Germany had 3. Hungary had 1 when we came in today. And Portugal scores the first goal. So now they're advancing. France is advancing. Germany's advancing. Hungary's out, right? Then Hungary scores. So now Portugal's advancing. Hungary's advancing, or Hungary's advancing, France is advancing, Germany's not. Then France scores. And it was just like back and forth. And Hungary was up 2-1 in the 84th minute when Germany scored to tie it 2-2. And Germany went from being out to, let me put it in the words of Roger Bennett here. I'm stealing this from Roger Bennett from Men in Blazers. As the old adage goes, football is a simple game. 22 men chase a ball for 90 minutes. And at the end, the Germans rescue a point, scrape through the group of death, and face England.
That might be because I was watching that too. From my last name, you may have gathered, I'm a fan of Germany. That's who I was certainly cheering for, and I was certainly very emotional watching it. But I think this is the first time I've ever watched anything and sort of had the UEFA thing that sort of like doing live. Just like the group thing would just sort of like go live. And that's sort of a new thing. I don't ever remember them sort of like doing like what, like if this sort of this game ended now, here's where we're at.
Yeah. They do that. They do that in the Premier League, like towards the end of the season with both the top and bottom. More of the drop points in the bottom when we get to the end for that. But yeah, and Finland was involved in this too because Finland was the first. So they 4 of the 6 third place teams made it. Finland was the first team left out. But yeah, it was crazy just going back and forth. There's a chance that Portugal, if Portugal had lost that game 3-0. If they lost that game, 3-0, then Finland would have advanced. Like the whole thing was just nuts and crazy and everything, and it was so emotional and fun that it was absolutely sports at its best. And I know we talk a lot of soccer here, or I talk a lot of soccer here.
I listen,
and you listen, and nod appreciatively. Thank you very much, you silly Boca fan. I know you're not actually a Boca fan. Yeah, but I just want to talk about how awesome that was. I'm really looking forward to the round of 16. There's some ridiculous matchups in that round, including, like I said, England, Germany. We got Belgium and Portugal, like the number 1 team versus the defending champions. France, Switzerland's going to be a great game. Croatia, Spain's going to be a great game. Even like Wales, Denmark, and Sweden, Ukraine, which aren't like the teams you expect to win, although Wales was a semifinalist last time around. Just all the games are so fun and see what's happening. So like Belgium's number 1 team in the world. It looks like they're going to get there. They have to beat Portugal, Italy, France, and then that gets them the championship. That's a ridiculous route.
Was that all?
To have to get there. Yeah, it's all just Portugal, Italy, and France probably to get there. Or if it's not France, it's going to be Spain. So
I have to admit, I always cheer against Portugal in these tournaments. Not because I have anything against Portugal per se, but being in the Toronto, well, not anymore, but being in the Toronto area. Hey, Portuguese fans. I'm talking about you people here in Canada specifically. Maybe it might be that way in the US. I don't know. So you put on your Portuguese flag on the car, right? That's all great. World Cup. And then what happens when Portugal gets eliminated and Brazil's still there? All of a sudden you're Brazilian. I live in Toronto. There's not that many of you. You think the people of Brazil care about you in Portugal? You think when that happens, if Brazil gets eliminated first, oh, now we're going to fly the Portuguese flag? No. Sorry, I'm just done. Just wanted to go there.
Wow. Well, to clear things up, Portuguese fans, I will have to say that your greatest player became the all-time leading goal scorer in international soccer history. Cristiano Ronaldo had 5 goals in that group of death, scored against each one of the teams. He's currently the leader for most goals in this tournament. He has 109 for his career, making him number 1 all time in the history of international soccer.
So we're saying he's good.
He might not be the worst.
Might not be the worst.
So
I'm going to bring this down here for a minute. Did I ever tell you about when I got a Germany flag for, I forget whatever tournament it was?
No.
All right. So I picked up a Germany flag, and then the guy said, okay, I want to shake your hand. I bought a flag? Like, okay. And as he's doing that, he says, yep. The reason I want to do that is because I'm from Palestine and we hate the same people.
Oh, Kirk.
Yeah, didn't put up the flag. Couldn't do it. It's like I didn't know what to say. It's like I don't think I've ever, as people may have guessed, I'm generally not at a loss for words. I was at a loss for words.
Yeah. I
didn't know what to say. But that flag stayed in the back seat that entire time because I just.
Well. All right. Well,
bring me out of this.
Yeah, let's go to the bad. Let's go from that to the bad. So for the bad, I would like to bring up something that happened in the Nationals Phillies game last night. So the Nationals Phillies game last night, we're in the 5th inning, and for the 3rd time, Joe Girardi asks the umpires to check Max Scherzer for an illegal substance. They checked him in the 3rd. They checked him in the 4th. They checked him in the 5th. Every time they came up empty. The last time he took off his hat and glove right away, undid his belt, and was like, guys, I have nothing to hide. Right? Scherzer only pitched 5 innings. He struck out 8, gave up 1 run, or I can't remember 1 or 2. But it was just making the Phillies look kind of silly in that game. As Scherzer's walking back to the dugout, he just staring at Girardi in the Phillies dugout. Girardi, who is one of the biggest fake tough guys in sports history. First of all, it's 75 degrees in Philadelphia and he's wearing a full hooded sweatshirt, so I'm not sure what he's hiding. But secondly,
illegal substance.
Secondly, he runs out and is like, "What? Come here, come on over." Like Scherzer's going to go charge him, and he got thrown out of the game because, of course, he's a fake tough guy.
Yep.
There's no way Scherzer's ever going to walk over there. And so he doesn't worry how to be fight, and he's just hoping maybe Scherzer does, and Scherzer gets thrown out too. Like Joe Girardi, and then Girardi afterwards said that he had never seen Scherzer like wipe his head so much. His head was sweaty because it was a hot day, right? So his head was sweaty, so he was like wiping his hair, putting his hat back on. Like, I don't know, I've seen 3,000 people do before, and he's like, I've never seen him do that before, so I just want to make sure it's within the rules and whatever. Fuck you, Joe Girardi. Like, you are I understand cheating, and I'm going to go into why fuck you, Joe Girardi, in a second. But, like, let's just talk about who you're doing this to. You're not doing this to anybody, just some random dude in MLB. You're doing this to Max goddamn Scherzer, who's probably a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
You check him once, fine, gamesmanship. You check him once, fine, maybe you know something. Check him second time, that's gamesmanship. You check him the third time, you're trying to defame his character at that point.
I have to agree.
Just stop it. And I would like to ask you this question. Here's another trivia question for you. So, there's a 10-game suspension for illegal whatever now. There's always been a 10-game suspension, by the way. They're just going to be enforcing it here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who the last player suspended for a foreign substance was? Last pitcher.
Oh, last pitcher. I was going to guess George Brett. Pine tar.
It's Pine tar again. And I remember watching this game. That should give you a hint as to it was against the Red Sox.
No, I don't know.
2014, a pitcher named Michael Pineda, who now pitches up in the Twins, at that point was pitching for a team called I believe it's the New York Yankees. The coach of the New York Yankees that day.
Oh, let's see if I can I guess this one and redeem myself?
Well, hold on. Let me tell you what he said first, and then you can guess who it is. His direct quote after he got suspended. Now, you have to understand, Pineda has dark skin, and he had pine tar, just like a swath of it just here, under, like, blatantly obvious.
No.
Super obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the quote. He's a young kid. I don't think he's trying to do anything to cheat. I think he's just trying to go out there and compete. He used bad judgment tonight. He'll admit to that. I'm not going to get mad at him. The kid's doing the best he can. He's trying to compete. He feels bad. He feels like he let his teammates down. But as I said to Michael, hey, this is a little bump. We'll get through this. We'll find a way to get you through this. You'll be back pitching before you know it. Who do you think his manager was who said that?
Oh, let's see. I'm going to guess it's Mr. Joe Girardi.
It is Mr. Joe Girardi. Now, being from Boston, I know, and a lot of us on the East Coast know the little fake tough guys from New York. Now, granted, I know Girardi played for the Yankees, coached Yankees, but he's actually from Illinois. He's actually from Peoria, Illinois. But we know a lot of those people, the guys who like fight. It's like, hey, come on, let's fight, and then wait for their friends to jump in and save them.
I've been that guy once.
Joe Girardi is that his entire life.
Which is strange, because usually you don't get that from Italian Americans. Sorry.
I'm going to leave that one alone. So Joe Girardi, come on, just stop it. Like, I get the first one. I even maybe get the second one. The third one, and then his like, it was so freaking weak. Just stop it. Bad of the week. Just he should be embarrassed. And Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Nationals, came out today and said that it was embarrassing for Major League Baseball and embarrassing for the Phillies franchise today, which is not something you ever hear a general manager say about another team. So, Joe Girardi, fake tough guy.
Nice.
All right.
So what's ugly?
Ugly this week. It happened today again. And I'm going to start with something cool. So, you may not know, but there are 7 openings for coaches in NBA coming
Okay, I
into the
didn't
day.
realize it was that many. Okay.
There were 7, yeah. So the 2 teams that have been doing the most sniffing around here are the Celtics and the Blazers. I'm pretty sure they've been looking at the same people. I'm pretty sure the Blazers are going to hire Chauncey Billups the next couple of days, it looks like.
Looks like it.
But the Celtics hired Ime Adoku. Excuse me. I'm getting used to the name. It's not one I'm familiar with, right? So he is the first coach who has African citizenship. He was born in the United States, but he played for Nigeria internationally. He has Nigerian and American citizenship. By the way, third of my final trivia question for you.
I got the third one right. This is my chance to go 50-50.
There you go. Here's the question. There's only been one NBA coach ever born in Africa. To give you a hint, he is currently coaching now. Who is it?
Should I know this? It's Steve Nash.
It is Steve Nash. Very good. Steve Nash was born in South Africa.
Yeah.
But does not have South African citizenship. He has British and Canadian citizenship. But he's technically the first coach born in Africa. So
okay.
By the way, Steve Kerr is the first coach born in Lebanon. By the way, in the Middle East.
I did not know he was born in Lebanon.
He was born in Lebanon. Anyway,
huh.
So Adoku is the first coach born in Africa, and he was the 18th coach in the history of the Celtics, which is cool because we're going for banner 18, right? So Jay Williams comes out and tweets today. Let me get his actual tweet here. This is the first head coach of color for the Celtics. Even more importantly, he's one talented individual who's paid his dues.
You got the second half right.
I agree with the second half. All right. Now, I know Boston has a reputation. And I will grant you that the Boston Red Sox are one of the most racist franchises in the history of sports. Okay? The history of I'm not saying the Red Sox now, I'm saying historically. The Red Sox are one of the most racist franchises in the history of sports. They famously gave 5-minute tryouts to both Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and said, "We don't want you here." Okay? They're the last team to have a African-American player on them, and Tom Yawkey is very famous being a racist jerk.
And to that point, one team was going to be last. That's sort of like why we have the term "dead last."
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. This wasn't like the. Do you know what the last team to have an African-American quarterback start for them in the NFL is? The Patriots were the second to last. Who was the last?
Okay, so I feel like I should know this. Damn it, I'm going to now go under 500 at trivia. Brigham Young.
No, the NFL, my friend.
Because I know that was actually broken this year or last year.
Yeah, so no, the last team was actually the New York Giants.
Okay, I was actually
Eli Manning's streak was broken by Geno Smith. He had Geno Smith come in.
God, I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, Geno Smith was quarterback, came in. That made them the last team. The Patriots were not that much earlier. We had Jacoby Brissett was our first African-American QB. Now we've had Cam Newton. But I feel like the Patriots one was more coincidental. We had Brady for a long time. We had Bledsoe for a long time. We had Grogan. Yeah. We had just a string of quarterbacks who were there for a long time. Generally.
Yeah, this is not a case of the Patriots organization saying, "Yeah, you know what? I'm just not. I'm not really sold on the idea of an African-American quarterback."
Right. The Red Sox were that organization, right?
They were.
But the Celtics are the complete opposite of that. They're the first team ever to hire an African-American coach in any sport in Bill Russell. Yeah. They've only had 18 coaches. 6 of them have been African-American now, including some guy who we mentioned earlier, Doc Rivers, who was coach of the Celtics when Jay Williams played against them. So great. So he screwed up, whatever. I get it. Not my biggest issue with him. Here's my issue and why he makes the ugly of the week. So this came up and he got rightfully ripped about it on Twitter. Like, hey, dude, this is another and think of people from Boston are convinced ESPN hates them. This is just more evidence that ESPN hates them, right? And so here is his response after he deleted it. As it relates to the Boston Celtics tweets that came from my account a couple of hours ago, I did not post that, and my passcode has now been changed. So he wants us to believe that somebody hacked his account just to post an incorrect fact about the Boston Celtics coaching job, and not like using it to say, hey, Boston is like just outright, just use the N-word about Boston. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so stupid and dumb. Just be like, you know what? I did that quickly. I didn't think about it. I knew better, and move on. But the idea that he got hacked, and like all the comments underneath us are like, hi, everyone. I just want to say that I did this. I've dedicated the last 3 years of my life to hacking Jay Williams' Twitter account just so I could post one embarrassingly wrong tweet from his account about the coaching history of the Boston Celtics. Like, that's what they all say under this. It's just dumb. Like, again, if you screw up, admit it and move on.
We all eat an L.
Yeah, just eat the L, Jay.
You know, like it's not even that. Okay, it's embarrassing, and people will forget. In fact, if he would have just done that, we wouldn't be talking about it. I would have missed it completely because I only learned about it from you.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, that was stupid or whatever. But like,
it wouldn't have even come up.
Like when you get me on the same side of an issue as Whitlock, like that has to be pretty bad. I just have to say. So, but yeah, it just take the L. And I would just also like to point out that not only have we had 6 coaches, 3 of them we have the 6th one we just hired. 3 of them have won championships with Russell, Casey Jones, and Doc. The other 2, by the way, Sash Sanders, who was coaching the interim period there in the 70s, and ML Carr, who was coached just to do the tank job after Rick Pitino, so we could all get Tim Duncan. So
it's that go-to. It's almost like part of a playbook, but usually it's after you got drunk and said something racist,
right?
You know, not like, okay, I made an L, or look, what was he? Was he worried about racism really quick here? Like, I don't get it. Like, this is not.
As a Boston fan, it's also the go-to when anything having to do with race happens in Boston. I still remember Tom Verducci, had to be a decade ago at this point, talking about the Red Sox at the time didn't have any African-American players because David Ortiz didn't count because he was Afro-Caribbean and not actually African-American. And therefore, because of their history, they were still being racist at the time. And I was just like, you were just like, we had Jacoby Ellsbury. We were the only team with a Navajo player at the time. Does that mean the rest of the league was being racist against like Native Americans? It was just like,
I didn't know he was
like every time there's anything that has anything remotely to do with race in Boston, it's just like the go-to. And it may have just been a knee-jerk reaction with that more than anything.
Sometimes you'd like to think that we've progressed at the point where if you're a Major League Baseball general manager or general manager in any of the big 4 sports, if you're looking at what someone's skin color is at this point, what would be I think the last prejudice that we really had from a GM would be that of a black quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's been and that was not that long ago. And when I'm thinking of like Antoine Randall, like, oh, you're not going to make it as a QB, kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
Even though he was like lighting everything up in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So I think that was sort of like the last time. I'd like to, and I could be proven wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but.
Yeah, I mean, and to think that like Theo Epstein was just like, oh, no black people. Like it was just dumb. But again, the Boston Celtics, Jay Williams, just in case you don't know, first team with African-American coach, the first team with a starting 5 who was African-American in the history of the NBA. Mm-hmm. And honestly, Red Auerbach, the reason Red Auerbach was better than everybody else was he just took who was good and didn't really care.
Yeah, what a strange idea, huh?
It was weird. Like it was revolutionary in the 60s. And it wasn't in the 50s though, no? It was in, well, yeah. I mean, he drafted Heinsohn. Well, he drafted Heinsohn and
Hmm.
and Russell together in the 58 draft.
Okay.
That was a pretty good draft.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we got Russell and Heinsohn together in the 58 draft. So, but he was the first guy who just was like, are these the best players? Yeah. Do I care what they look like? No. And that's why the Celtics were good in the 60s, because it took forever for everyone else to figure that out.
Sometimes logic is not so logical, apparently. I guess that sort of ends our show this week. I do have something at least for next week, for sure.
Exciting.
Well, it's not really that exciting, but the basketball list will be revised.
Okay.
There's actually a couple more people who, because Basketball Reference got a few things wrong. I actually had it right. I didn't even look at my own damn site for who was eligible.
Okay.
So there's a seismic shift in the top 10.
Okay. Well, a lot of people got in last year. So
5 out of the top 10, including the top 4. So that's going to be pretty much ready.
So well, I'm trying to guess. Your top 4 were Pierce, Bosch, Wallace. Who are your other top 4 before?
Jesus, I just did all. I've just been working on all of this. Ben Wallace. Paul Pierce was 1. Chris Bosh was number 2. Ben Wallace was number 4. Why am I blanking on who was number 3?
I'll get it. Hold on. I'll tell you who was inducted, and I'll figure it out in 1 second. I just got to pull up. Weber.
Jesus, and I've been hyping Weber since we started talking. My apologies. And Bob Dandridge at number 10.
Okay.
So I think right there might be a little early to talk about that, but if we had sort of a lull, we can sort of look at that because, oh my God, almost anyone could get in because there's not anything that's a sure lock at all.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we talked about the top person is Joe Johnson, right?
He's not.
Oh, he's not?
He's not.
Who was the other person? Oh, is it, no, it was Manu?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Manu and Joe Johnson, the only two I think who have a shot at all of making the Hall. So, and I don't think Joe Johnson's ever going to make it, but I think Manu will.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting because, again, it could be very, very certain. It could be almost like Hockey Hall of Fame Guy Carbonell Strange. And they could do a lot of interesting things with this because they're timing this, I don't know, in a nice way. I'm kind of giving up too much for next week, but we may not go in that much depth anyway. But I don't know if the financial situation in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame has changed. And it's not like I have any inside knowledge. All I know is when you change the rules multiple times in the last few years, just so you could expedite inducting in Shaquille O'Neal in the Kobe Bryant class that we just had. Mm-hmm. So we went from 6 years to 3 years, just very quickly. You clearly need the money.
And you just create a problem for yourself later on down the road.
It is. And here we are already. So I hope whatever financial issues I'm pretty sure that they took care of. I don't know. I have no idea. I'd have no inside information. I'm just playing going from what I see. I don't think I'm wrong.
Oh, here we go. Michael Cooper, Marquez Johnson, Tim Hardaway. Are we going to get down to, Scott Skiles, like
Brian Scalabrine? But no,
Mark Price, come on down.
Yeah, there's
Togo Palazzi.
There's not going to be a single name next year that's going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend that $1,000 to go make that trip to Springfield because I want to see
Springfield. It's a hell of a town,
right? It just isn't there. So
they don't have monorail. Just by the way, you'll be
monorail.
There's no monorail there.
Monorail. My favorite line from that is like the end. Leonard Nimoy. Well, my work here is done. I didn't do anything, didn't I?
Yep.
But yeah, so that
Bostonian.
One. Yeah. So
Bostonian Leonard Nimoy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. He was he grew up like 3 blocks from the Museum of Science in Cambridge. He was actually the voice of the Museum of Science there for decades.
See, we were meant to do this all this time. I mean, Nimoy from your hometown, Shatner from my home country. Look at this. Like, how's
I used
written in the stars.
Do you remember the old show Remote Control?
Heard of it, didn't watch it.
So it was an MTV game show, and they used to have different categories. And at one point, they had a category just called Dead or Alive, where they had to tell somebody was dead or alive.
Yeah.
And then they had Dead, Alive, or Canadian. And for a while when I did trivia stuff, I used to use Star Trek as a way of proving Dead, Alive, or Canadian. Mm-hmm. So at that point, DeForest Kelly was born in Atlanta, Georgia. By that point, had died, so he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Doohan, who was Scotty, who was born in Vancouver, had also passed away at that point. So even though he was Canadian, he counted as dead.
Whoa! Scotty was born in Vancouver?
Yeah. He lost his ring finger on his right hand storming Juno Beach during D-Day. It was a bullet went straight through and took this finger off.
So he had a prosthetic that whole time?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he had, but he lost a finger during the storming of Juno Beach.
I didn't know that. Shit.
Shatner was born in Montreal and is alive, so he's Canadian. And Nimoy was born in Boston. He was alive at the time. He's now passed away, so he's Bostonian. So I always use that. But my favorite part about Dead, Alive, or Canadian or Remote Control, they had a category. It became Dead, Alive, or Indian food. And one of the name that came up was Golda Meir, the former leader of Israel.
Oh no!
And the contestant said Indian food.
Oh. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wow.
That show was MTV used to have good programming. They don't anymore, but they used to have very, very funny programming at the time.
Well, at least we know we've got a little something. The fictional halls will have their announcement soon for the semis. I'm just gonna promote that a bit here, guys. Vote, and that's my fault. I haven't promoted this very well. This is actually sort of the lower votes that we've had in a while in terms of the fictitious athlete and fictitious rock and roll hall. I haven't been very active on social media. I really should have, even though the site has certainly grown and site traffic has gone up considerably. I haven't got really the votes we wanted.
It's the sex appeal, my friend. The sex appeal.
It must be that. And we've got some real weird ones, man. So when we talk about that, nothing's going to change because I've closed the voting. We could just do a separate show on the semis because those of you who did vote, what the hell were you thinking on some of these?
They're hanging out with Alec Caruso.
Caruso.
What's the Caruso? Who's the Caruso who plays? I have the wrong first name. Who plays for the Lakers?
Oh,
got pulled over for marijuana. I didn't realize white people got pulled over for marijuana in Los Angeles.
I don't believe anyone gave a shit about marijuana possession anymore.
I know. So it's not like Frank Clark who got pulled over and had an Uzi on his back seat.
Wasn't mine.
It wasn't me. Yeah. By the way, the thing that was almost bad, by the way, and in case you haven't seen it, I don't want to go bring people's private lives into this, but if you guys haven't read the Ben Zobrist story from this past week, did you read that at all?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Holy crap. I don't want to just go read it. It's insane. The whole story is insane. So I didn't want to go into it that deeply. For Jay Williams saved me from it, but yikes.
Well, I mean, you can always sort of like have multiple goods.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, because you've done that before.
I have done that before, but
I was gonna pass completely on Elevator Up until I got inspired.
Yeah, it was going to be Ben Zobrist until that. So anyway, all right, man. I'll see you next week. We'll always figure out something. There'll be good. There'll be bad. There'll be ugly. People will die. There'll be ups and downs.
Absolutely, and that's just Boston.
Fair enough. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, stay safe, everyone.
Bye.